Welcome to another episode of College Admission TV. Dr. JP Novin talks with Dr. Stephen Spinelli, president of Babson College, about Babson College's entrepreneurial focus and the integration of AI into their educational model.
Welcome to season 3 of the Higher Education Leader Podcast, where we are exploring AI, higher education, and the future of workforce. I want to thank our sponsor, ASU GSV, for making this season possible. And for our listeners, you can catch this conversation on Spotify or watch it on College Admission TV. I'm your host, JP Novin, and today I'm honored to welcome President Stephen Spinelli of Babson College, one of the nation's foremost institutions of entrepreneurial education. Welcome, President Spinelli.
It's an honor to be here, JP.
Super. Now, your college has been here since 1919. It has a history in entrepreneurship and it's kept its core ever since then, over a century now. You are a lifelong entrepreneur and an academic leader yourself, spent many years on Babson's faculty and in a leadership role. You are also vice provost for entrepreneurship global management. And before becoming a president, you were very active as an academic and an entrepreneur. And under your leadership, you really pushed Babson to, innovate. You have MathBot tools. You have a lot of AI tools that you all are doing internally. So I'm very excited to have you on this episode. Welcome. We'd like to hear from your words, your background, and also give us a little more background and color about Babson College, please.
It's an honor to be here, JP. The world of higher education, frankly, the world of entrepreneurship is moving at such a rapid pace that if we're not having these kinds of conversations and trying to learn from each other, we're going to fall behind. And Patrick Henry said we either hang together or we'll hang separately. And I think the value of higher education is so acute and under such pressure now that we've got to come together and figure out how, as a community, we're going to drive into the future. And frankly, I'm incredibly optimistic about both the future of higher education and the future of entrepreneurship, especially with the underpinning of AI and the innovations around AI. Babson's a business specialty school. It was founded to have business majors. Roger Babson was an entrepreneur, made a lot of money figuring out how to make money during the Great Depression. His clients loved that and came to Babson. He was very quantitative in his analysis. It was an all-boys school until early 1960s. It is co-ed now. We have about 2,800 undergraduates, all business majors with different concentrations. So you can concentrate in entrepreneurship, in accounting, in finance, in OB, all kinds of concentrations, but you're a business major. You get a BS in business when you graduate from Babson. We have 1,200 graduate students, and you can do an MBA, you can do an MS in finance, you can do a Master of Science in Business Analytics, you can do a Master of Science in Entrepreneurial Leadership. We have a whole portfolio of master's degree programs, and we have a long history of executive education. So our perspective is that you ought to be, you're green and growing or you're ripe and rotting, you're learning or you're dying. That's the philosophy we have about business leadership, that it should be a constant learning environment. And we train our kids very much like a music conservatory. We're the business equivalent of a music conservatory. And that kind of energy, we have about 45,000 alumni, all in business and all driven and aspirational. We really are one of the founders of entrepreneurship as a discipline. And in much of history, people thought you were anointed at birth. The fairy godmother, I don't know, somebody came down and said, oh yeah, you're an entrepreneur, you're not, and you were born with it. We soon learned, relatively soon, that you could teach entrepreneurship, but historically only to very special people would learn that. Then we figured out, and Babson really figured out, that you should teach entrepreneurship to everyone, that it was a mindset and a tool set that allowed you to look at problem solving in a holistic way and with a very specific intent of creating value. And that, by building a curriculum and a research base around that, we grew fairly significantly. In recent years, and by recent years, I'd say maybe 20 or 30 years, it's become a competency. I would even say a core competency now. If you can't see things in a holistic manner, you are limiting your value to society, to a company, to an organization, to your family, to your community, to the world. And the broader you can see, the more light you shine on something, the more holistic you are in your approach to the problem solving, to the resource gathering, to the service of a marketplace, the more value you can create. So entrepreneurship has become very important. We believe that there is a leadership component in entrepreneurship that builds that perspective in organizations and between organizations. And we teach very much around the concept of entrepreneurial leadership. I have an idea. Do we have an idea? I have a concept. We have a concept. Do we have a business model? Do we understand the ecosystem that we're becoming a part of? Do we understand how value is created in that ecosystem? Can we have that discussion with people? Are we articulate about how value is created and distributed in that? We teach those skills here, and it results in a lot of business creation. So you layer in something like AI, and we are fanatically impressed, excited, and motivated to make AI a part of what we're doing. It is a part of what we're doing, whether we like it or not, by the way. It is going to be a part of what everyone is doing and is. In new venture creation, I think because entrepreneurship is core to what we do, and frankly, and I can get carried away with this, I admit, I'm a fanatic about it. I think it's core to humanity. So, people naturally aspire to solve a problem, either through self-interest or enlightenment. They want to solve problems. And when you can reward people for that and the human condition is improved, they get motivated to do bigger problems and to continue to do that. And the more we reward them and the more we do, the better the world gets. And so that's what we teach here. So when we look at AI, frankly, we look at it first through the entrepreneurship lens. There's a couple of ways we look at it. How do we deliver education in a different way, in an enhanced way, in an improved way? And how do we look at the entrepreneurial process and entrepreneurial leadership? And what are the skills and tools that AI can provide to enhance that? And we've gotten very, very engaged at looking at the components of the entrepreneurial process and the building of the entrepreneurial leader, and say, what is the interface of AI in building those components? So, we have an opportunity generator. How do you take an idea, put it through a lens, and say it is a good idea or it's really a good opportunity? What are the economics around that opportunity? What kind of deep research can we bring to entrepreneurship planning? So we like to call it entrepreneurship action planning, because we want it to motivate action around that. How do we then connect all of that to resources? And so we have a resource module, an opportunity generator, an entrepreneurship action plan, and a resource connector, so that we can have all those components have an AI interface that allows you to be more efficient, to be faster, and to scale. And our students are going crazy around that. And I think it's important, especially for colleges and universities, to have a very clear value proposition. When you come here, we are going to train you. We are going to prepare you. You are going to grow into a perspective on, how am I going to be a professional? What am I going to do with my life? And what is the career roadmap that is best fitted for me? And we take all of our data and all the data we can collect from the marketplace, and we help interface with you as you go through this process of learning about entrepreneurship, and where do you fit in it best? And so we get this ability to customize your career roadmap as a part of this. We're excited about all four components of that, and we're excited about how that comes together. On top of the fact that we teach entrepreneurship every day with 3 dozen entrepreneurship professors, let alone 250 other professors that we have. I rambled a bit there, JP, but I get very excited about this.
You are dead on. Really appreciate that. You are an expertise institution. You make experts in a particular field. By the time they come out around real estate, around entrepreneurship, around global management, what have you. So as you look ahead, how do you perceive the impact of AI on your graduates over the next 5 years?
Constant learning machines and people who, as experts, are continually shaping the nature of the opportunity and the delivery system that will exploit that opportunity and create growth. They aren't going to say, here's the business model and here's a 10-year projection. They're going to say, here is a business model and how do I scale it over the next 10 years? And what are the kinds of things that will happen? And how do I gather data and gather other relationships? How do I understand the ecosystem so that I can have an advantage in building and shaping the business models that are going to serve my customers? That's one of the reasons AI is so important to what we're doing, is if you have the right access to data and you understand how to put that data together and give you insights into the marketplace, into the nature of market demand, you make those decisions very quickly and much more efficiently. And you end up taking scarce resources and leveraging them in an optimal point. So with less, I can do more is an entrepreneur's dream. And if I can do that at scale, then I can create almost unlimited value. And we're training our students to be thinking that way.
Now, you're doing a lot around AI. I mean, you have the generator, which is the interdisciplinary hub. Yep. You have the Edu AI revolution, all-in AI strategy, part of the Babson Information Technology Service Department. Yeah. You have the MathBot, a co-developed AI tool with Microsoft, one of our investors as well. And also AI literacy, foundation of your AI badge. And one of my favorites is this major that you have, the TOIM, Technology Operation Information Management, that is also very forward-looking. Who is doing all of this? Is this part of the vision? Is it faculties, provosts, deans? What is causing all of this activity at Babson?
Such a good question. You get all these big ideas, but then you got to make them real. You got to be able to deliver on this stuff. And so what we've done is we've created we have the sort of the traditional academic structure of divisions and all of that. Now we have deep division, a deep academic unit in entrepreneurship. That helps. So we're starting with, 30 academics who have studied different aspects of entrepreneurship for their whole lives, are deeply rooted in the research and understanding. We also have a cadre of incredibly impressive professors of practice, entrepreneurs who have gone out and have made a lot of money or built incredibly important and interesting companies and are teaching also. And we've helped them learn how to be expert teachers. We have a whole Babson Academy that takes entrepreneurs and says, how do you transfer that knowledge? It's good for them. They grow their organization better, but they can grow talent at Babson too. So the student gets the deep thinking and research of the academic and the action orientation and the practical experience of the professor of practice, and they build it together into experiences both in the classroom, in the intellectual experience, and the action experience through our Arthur M. Blank School for Entrepreneurial Leadership, which has a series of industry verticals that they can interact with: finance, franchising, women in entrepreneurship, retailing. There's a bunch of these different verticals that have market-facing programming that students opt into. They don't have to participate in any of that. 88% of our students do participate as a part of their experience at Babson. This is the kind of co-curricular fanaticism a Babson student tends to engage in, and they take that thought and action and put it into a practical experience. And we've got the Metropolis Institute for Technology Entrepreneurship, which is housing a lot of this interface with AI and other technologies that are over my head. I go into those, you go into a sophomore project at the Metropolis Institute, and it's over your head quickly. I mean, they're just incredibly brilliant, driven kids. And they're doing this as a part of their education that they're co-creating. They're a part, and it's one of the things that is most impressive about the future of education is students are taking responsibility for this lifelong learning mentality. They're making demands that say, I want the deep intellectual understanding. I want the practical experience, and I want to put them together. I want to be able to do that my entire life. So education isn't a block of what I do, then I go take action. I learn and I act, and I learn and I act, and I'll do that the rest of my life. I think that's another of the great hopes of what AI has caused in this almost frenzied pace is we're building people that understand how to manage that pace and optimize their engagement with it. So it's thought and action and practice. And the Metropolis Institute, Dean Metropolis, who is this incredible alum of Babson, who has done all kinds of, from Pabst Blue Ribbon beer to all kinds of other businesses that he's bought. He's torn them apart. He's built them back together. He's created this massive infrastructure of business building. He sees the technology as super important and gave us an incredible amount of funding to get this launched.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you are ranked #1 in the U.S. according to U.S. News for entrepreneurship education, right?
Only for 31 consecutive years.
So, I have a selfish reason why I asked this question because my son Elias, he has a side startup at the age, he's been doing it since he was 15, and he's now applying to considering universities, and he wants to be an entrepreneur. And what would you tell? I mean, usually I see people going to an MBA. Why would someone like Elias want to consider, if he has the honor to be accepted, to come to your school? What can he expect after he graduates? Do people like him, do they go to a graduate work, or do they start their own business afterward as an entrepreneur?
What he should expect is immediate immersion. And I don't care if he goes to Babson or somewhere else. He should expect, he's an experienced 16-year-old and has gone through a lot. I got to tell you, the student of today needs to see a holistic view of why the learning is happening. We have to give them the larger picture so they see the components as important and they see how they come together, because it's going to be so rapidly changing. If you start to insert components later, it'll be out of context and you don't optimize. When you come to Babson, you have to start a business your first year, your first week. You get put into groups, and we call it the freshman management entrepreneurship experience. You learn about a holistic development of a business model. You learn to identify problems. You have to shape solutions to it. You have to do it in a team. You have to develop a business model. We fund it. You run it the whole year. Some kids keep it going. Some kids stop it. Some kids fail. Some kids succeed. Everyone learns. And you're learning in this curated environment that helps you say, okay, we made this mistake. Why? This worked. How do we leverage that? What did we learn that we can take into another framework? We build a mental framework about how you create value. It's an incredibly important course. And then every other course you take at Babson, you start thinking, how does it come together? How does this fit in a company or an organization? How do I create value? And what we find is, if you're in finance or accounting or marketing or whatever you do and you don't start businesses, you still see it in a holistic way. And you see how you can create more value by understanding those components. I think it's a super important part when your son is looking for colleges. He may or may not become an entrepreneur, but if he's driven like this, he's going to be successful if he can see the big picture. Expect that. Expect it to come together.
Now, Let's talk about the risk of AI, because there's a lot of discussion about professions and industries that are at risk. Okay. When you look ahead in the next 5 years, what profession or even industries do you think will be uh, at risk, at most risk in the next coming 5 years? And I just want to put this footnote there. I've met with probably 5 CEOs and startups, because I am in Silicon Valley, that are building agentic accounting tools, and they believe that you don't need as many accountants and analysts and what have you. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as far as I guess professionals at risk.
I think I'm not being flippant with this. All of them are at risk. Every single thing we do, either I think that it'll be more acute at the entry level positions in accounting or finance, or the sort of the basic technical skill jobs, I think will be the most at risk. I think the importance, and I would give this advice to your son, is look for programming that is going to give me a stepwise advantage in entering the market. If I'm going to go and I'm going to be an accounting trainee at a large company or anywhere, I'm worried. In 4 years, that position I don't think is going to be there. I got to be trained for what is the stepwise increase in any business that says from sort of the management trainee into the manager. How can I make that? How can I make my 4 years in college give me that stepwise advantage? If I can find that step, if you can articulate that step for me, that's a college I want to go to. And there's a lot of colleges that are thinking in that way. It's not just Babson College. So there are a lot of good colleges that I think are thinking beyond that. The more creative and the more integrated the role, the less at risk it is. The less integrated, the more technical, the more at risk in the immediate future. I think 5 years for me is, you might as well say 50 years. Because it's so far into the future. I can't think that far. In the next year, that's my perspective, and it may change. A year from now, we may talk, and I may have a different answer for you. But right now, what I'm saying is our students better be ready for that. They better be ready to make management decisions their first day on the job. The 4 years in college isn't a cushy. I want them to have fun. I want them to have a great experience and make lifelong friends and do all of that kind of stuff. I'm not inhuman about this. I want them to enjoy life, but I want them to be elevated to that position where they're adding value in the first decision they make in a company.
It's kind of like professional sports now. You come out of college and you're a starter now.
That's exactly right. There's you get drafted as a quarterback. It used to be 2 or 3 years on the bench playing behind someone. Now you're in spring training. You better be throwing touchdowns.
It's interesting. Now, we've had obviously industrial shakeups for over 200 years. Industrial revolution. We went from an agrarian society to an industrial society. Automation has now made us a service society, and now we're entering into an AI society. But I think the argument could be made. I was watching a news, and this gentleman was saying that we spent equivalent to today about $40 billion on the Manhattan Project. We're going to spend over $10 trillion just in the next couple of years just on AI infrastructure. So the speed by which this is impacting our society in terms of job displacement and job creation could be argued that we've never seen it before.
Yeah, I agree.
Are we going to have enough run rate for job creation because of how fast this is coming to us?
Yeah, if someone gives you a definitive answer, I would say ignore it. Because I think it's too hard to project. I think that there will be. Here's my larger answer: is we aren't even close to solving all the problems in society. That there are billions of problems that we haven't solved, and life is grossly imperfect. And we should be living to 200 years old, and we shouldn't have the physical, emotional, economic problems we have, and we have a lot to fix. So I don't think we have a market demand for problem solving is not going to be smaller. So we've got huge problems to solve. The issue of economic dislocation for workers, though, is a problem. Are we able, the question is, are we able to train people differently and fast enough to fit the changing environment and the problem solving that we're having? So your son goes out and starts a company. Will he find the right people to be on his team to grow his company? And maybe 10 years ago, he would have needed 1,000, and now he needs 100, but there'll be 100 of those companies, and there'll be a need for 10,000 jobs. Do we have the right infrastructure right now to do that? And we don't have a lot of time to evolve. So I think there's going to be some fairly significant dislocation in key spots. And I think that's going to be problematic for society.
So 3 years ago, I surveyed nearly 100 presidents, and I interviewed half of them. And the question was, what is the biggest threat to higher education in terms of enrollment? And the enrollment cliff was invariably on top. They were worried about the enrollment cliff. Today is the negative perception of the value of a college degree, but in the society. And why is that? And what would you tell a parent who says, there are a lot of high-paying jobs. I don't need to. My son doesn't or daughter doesn't need to go to college anymore. Why should I even come to college at this point? So it's a two-part question. Why do you think this is happening? And what would you tell a parent who says, do I need to spend $150,000, $200,000 on an undergraduate degree?
Boy, we may not have long enough. I could answer that question for about the next 9 years. I think it'll all change by the time I finish my sentence. There is the evolution of higher education. The revolution in higher education is going to lead the change. I think there's going to be. I don't think there's a demographic trough at all. I think that there's a limited vision on the part of a lot of colleges. We think college is 18 to 21 or 22 years old. We think you then have to go get a master's degree and then you go off into life. And I think that model is changing so dramatically. What AI is doing in particular, but the pace of change in general, is saying you better be a learning machine. And if Babson College is expert at helping you learn, why would you ever leave me? I may give you a degree, undergraduate, graduate, I'll certify you in this, I'll do, but you're never leaving me. Once you sign up here, I want to be your partner until you die. And if I can have a partner, a customer, and for their entire life, frankly, the business model is better. I've got to keep growing and changing. You've got continually changing demands. I'm expert at it. We're working together. We're solving problems. I get an 80-year income stream instead of a 4 or 5-year income stream. That's a great business model. What we have is rigidity in the way that we construct that model and deliver those services. You're going to be here for 4 years and you're going to have this amount of credits, then you're going to leave, then you're going to come back, then you're going to get a master's degree, then you're going to leave, then we're going to ask you for a lot of money, and you're going to love us and you're going to send us money, and that'll allow us to perpetuate. And now people will say, well, maybe that doesn't work. Maybe I need to learn my entire life. What are you going to do to prepare me to be a lifelong learner? What are you going to do to prepare me to have a career? I think there is a false dichotomy between liberal arts and business education or technical education. I think you should be bringing the two together. I think the liberal arts that we do at Babson College is as important as the business we do at Babson College. We help you to learn values and understanding and humanity. That gives you a better chance to be a leader, to see the real problems, to have real organizations that want to solve the problems. Bringing that together, we need to be very explicit with the marketplace about what the value proposition is. I want students to have a job. I am not shy about that. It is part of my job is to make sure you have a job. I don't want just a job. I want them to have a career. I want the slope of that career to be the best in the industry. We need to be more explicit about the value proposition. I don't think it's rocket science. We are the experts in learning in a world that requires more units of learning to persist. This is the greatest time in the history of the world to be an educator. We're crazy not to embrace this. What we do is we get captured in old business models, and we're not flexible enough to meet the nature of market demand. So new entrants will come in, or we'll change. We'll fail, or we'll grow. Okay, that's the way the system works. Those colleges that understand how much incredible value they have locked in old systems and can grow it, I think the future is amazing for higher education. We are the salvation in this. You get rid of higher education, you have people stumbling out there, and it won't be. You'll have big winners and big losers. And we still may have that, but I tell you, we can have a lot more winners if they're educated and we understand how to be partners in that education with them. That's our whole philosophy here, that we are going to partner with you.
So how would we change that? I mean, we have 4 years typically. It's been here for 500 years. To get your bachelor's degree, you have 2 years of master's, or you go to. I mean, you're talking about lifelong learning, but would you change that model?
JP, for several thousand years, we used horses.
Right.
They were great transportation. It wasn't until the early 1900 years or so, 125 years.
I'm very smelly.
And they had aftermath that was unpleasant. There's all kinds of, yeah. So, higher education in its current form is really, especially in America, is a post-World War II phenomenon. That's when we democratized higher education. We need to evolve. And we have all the tools to evolve. We have incredible professors. We have the ability. Here's what I tell people here at Babson. We can teach in our curriculum to anyone, anywhere, at any time. For the first time in the history of humanity, I can teach you franchise. I'm very good at franchising. I'm bragging here. But I can teach you franchising in Afghanistan at 3 a.m. If we come together, I could do that. I could teach 1,000 people my key franchising model tomorrow. The only thing we've got to figure out is what the business models are around that. Again, if market, when I taught entrepreneurship at Babson, the key component is market demand. If you got customers, you got an opportunity to be successful. You got to be better. You got to price it right. You got to do all of those kinds of things. And we're going to teach you all of that. And if I'm saying there is this huge market, go adapt. Listen, higher education will adapt or they won't. Someone is going to provide the learning. Someone is going to be the education partner. I have a lawyer. He's been my lawyer for about 100 years. It feels like 100 years. I claim him as my lawyer, even in the language I just used. He's my lawyer, my doctor. I want to be my educator. Why wouldn't we do that? It's silly. Have we learned everything we're going to learn? It's just, I'm befuddled by the lack of excitement about the expanded marketplace for education. Colleges should get excited and go get that market demand. Change your internal processes. Why is it 4 years? Maybe it should be 3. Maybe it should be 10. I don't care. You come to a 4-star restaurant. Do I tell you what you have to order? Listen, if you don't order the French fries, you can't have the steak. Come on.
So all of this does have a small prerequisite or a big one, which is the first 12 years of K-12. If our students have not love to learn, if they don't love the learning process and education is a chore rather than an experience, lifelong learning becomes very difficult at that point.
Becomes muted. I couldn't agree more. And frankly, I worry about it. I think we have a K through 12 system that is generally pretty good. But it is very uneven. And we have to understand what the investment necessary is that will prepare those students for lifelong learning. The disadvantages of a rough first 10 years are really hard to overcome. You can, and maybe we have to invest more there too. But I think that it is beyond my professional scope, but I see the problems all the time. And I think it is a real concern. But it's not an unsolvable problem. And I don't know anybody. How many people have you interviewed, JP, that have said, K through 12, oh yeah, we got it nailed. It's great, man. What are you complaining? This is perfect. Nobody says that. And it's super important. And I don't care how good it is in any place, it can be better.
But I think my pet peeve about this issue is everyone is talking about how ChatGPT will do the writing for you. And my issue is, who cares? Thank God someone will fix my grammar. But that's not the issue, is that ChatGPT will not teach you critical thinking.
Right.
It's not going that's the part that I think there's an opportunity to really tackle, because I always tell kids, go study critical thinking majors, whether you're doing physics or philosophy or what have you, because if you have that tool, you'll be fine in your life, because there's always a need for critical thinkers that are not robots,
I actually think that our K through 12 system has some fantastic pedagogy and curriculum around critical thinking. And I sometimes go to this local elementary school and sit in. Good community relations. It's fun. It's terrific. And you sit in on a reading class, and really what it is, they're building skills, but they're building critical thinking. The teacher will say that, the bunny ran down the road. Why would a bunny run down a road? And the kids start to talk to him about the bunny running down the road. Well, the bunny could be hungry. Well, why would you run down the road? Oh, because look, there's food at the other end, but there's some risk there because look at that car. And that's, for me, beautiful critical thinking. So I actually think the pedagogy in K through 12 is somewhat more advanced than a lot of colleges.
Massachusetts, though, is always a trailblazer when it comes to education. You all do a lot there.
We're doing a lot, and that's my principal interface at the K through 12 level is in Massachusetts, and maybe I have a different view because of that. But I'm impressed with a lot of the, I sat in the class and I said, "Why is the bunny on the road? Maybe it's easier. They could run faster down the road."
I love that. I love that. So we could talk for a long time, but I have to kind of finish with this question. What will Babson College look like 5 years from now?
I think we will have, if we don't have 100,000 learners, that we aren't touching 100,000 learners, we've made a mistake or maybe failed. We could be touching 1 million learners by then. The touch of and I call it touching learners because it'll be, some of them will hug, some of them will embrace in a bear hug, some will shake hands with, some will high five, but there's going to be an interaction with learners at a dramatically greater scale. And we will likely do that with technology-assisted delivery systems and with a series of partners in an ecosystem that gives students, that gives learners plenty of choices and an ability to co-create and shape their learning experience. And it really will be a cradle-to-grave relationship.
President Spinelli, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I have so enjoyed this. You're a good man, and it's an important topic, and I love you for doing it.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, buddy.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll bring you another insightful conversation with a distinguished leader in higher education.